So I had a thought. A lot of people ask me, what camera should they buy, especially if they're upgrading from a cell phone? Now, I've had some cell phone footage here that I'm going to show you from the same exact camera angle. I'm not recording my cell phone now. I don't think I have enough time on my cell phone or space to record that much footage. But a lot of people who are asking, what do I do or what camera should I get? Usually ask that question because they want a better experience when it comes to that visual quality that makes you stand out from everyone else when it comes to what you provide from a content perspective versus everyone else who uses their cell phone. So we're scratching the cell phone out of this equation and we're just thinking cameras. What camera should I get? And what's the difference between cinema quality versus like a traditional DSLR mirrorless camera, one of those hybrid cameras that everyone talks about today? And now in this particular video, I'm also not doing natural lighting. I'm not using any other type of equipment that can enhance the video. I'm actually standing in front of a window right now and just speaking to you guys. I am using a wired microphone, so at least you can hear me better because audio quality is really important. A lot of people have different creative ways. You can even use your cell phone, record your voice on your cell phone, and it will sound a lot better to your expensive camera. So microphones are important, but you can kind of get by. But one thing that you really have to invest a lot of money in, if you want that, is the camera and of course the lens. Now on all three cameras, I'm also using a similar focal length and similar aperture settings. So all of the lenses are set at 70 millimeters on all three of these cameras. I'm using the Canon R5 Mark II on one. Now this is a very expensive camera and it's hybrid. I'm using the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K full frame. Now this one is still in the multiple thousands, but it's significantly less than the R5 and it's cinema only. It's not really a photo camera, but it's also got a lens at 70 millimeters f4. The Canon has 70 millimeter f4. And then on this one, this is a lot older and smaller sensor camera. This camera is about 10 years old. It's a Samsung NX1 and it's set at 50 millimeters, which when you add in the crop factor is around 75 millimeters. So it's similar and it's set to f2.8 on this lens, which is equivalent to a full frame of about f4, 4.2, something like that. So on all three cameras, you basically have the same settings because what we want to see is with everything similar, is there one that from an image or usability standpoint actually surpasses the other? Now, a couple of questions that I want to answer for you when you're trying to make that buying choice. What is the difference between a cinema camera and a hybrid camera? Well, cinema cameras are specifically designed for video. Now, when it comes to those cameras, they make it a lot easier to set up for different production types. They'll have different body styles that allow you to put different devices like monitors on it or rigged out batteries or whatever. And it comes with the ability to do that and then connect different type of high-end audio equipment and high-end video equipment. Some of them come with something called SDI ports, and those SDI allows communication to and linkage with other cameras for like time code syncing or extra data that you're providing straight into the like a switchboard that HDMI in particular wouldn't be able to deliver. Not to say that they don't have HDMI as well, and not to say that all cinema cameras do have SDI ports, but HDMI and SDI are very different technologies. And when you're geared more towards a cinema style, SDI does have its standouts. But that all depends on, is that really what you want? Well, then you've already made your decision. You're going cinema. But a hybrid camera, especially all the hybrid cameras that are available, tend to be very different features. Some hybrid cameras are more geared towards videos, and some are more geared towards photos, but do excellent videos. So how do you know which one to choose? And how do you know how much money to spend? Especially because of the fact that you can spend so much on a hybrid camera and it doesn't do the thing that you want it to do. So did you buy the right one? Well, I'll give you a couple of things that hybrid cameras are known for. They're known for taking great pictures and doing pretty decent video. Not all of them have a lot of the video controls that you would get in a traditional cinema camera, but a lot of them do have controls that are starting to come closer to producing an image and getting what you want out of them, similar to a cinema camera, but not quite. See, the bodies themselves on hybrid cameras are more geared towards photographers, and that's just the way it is. However, you have the ability to kind of buy like little rigs that let you attach more equipment on there at your disposal. Of course, it's an added cost, but you still have the ability to do that, and it protects the body of the hybrid camera that you're using. So the fact that you have the ability to do that is great. So if you're just looking to record video, I highly recommend hybrid cameras and just going for what works. Now I'm going to give you two different, and this is why I'm using these two different cameras right now, these two hybrid cameras. This camera is 10 years old. This camera just came out this year. It's the Samsung NX1. It's got a little bit of a smaller sensor than this full-frame Canon R5 Mark II, which came out this year. Now, when it comes to what you're seeing, just because a camera is older doesn't mean that you can't produce great images off of an older camera. But there's a lot of limitations that older cameras tend to have that newer cameras don't. So on an older camera, such as this 10-year-old camera, you can still record 4K. A lot of older cameras, you can't record 4K, but as things started to become relevant, you could record 4K. Now, a lot of you are just looking 1080p is fine with me. Well, then that opens up the gate to a lot more features, because recording in 1080p is something that you're used to, and especially if you're watching on the phone, whoever you're producing these videos for, they're not going to notice much. But as quality and as practicality, especially when it comes to YouTube compression and you want to get just a little bit more detail, you can get that off of 4K. And now, from that standpoint, there's also slow motion options, which this camera can do 4K at 24 and 30 frames per second, but it can't do anything higher than that. However, the camera can do 1080p at up to 120 frames per second and record sound. Great, a lot cheaper. I think you could find this camera less than $1,000, but it's because it's discontinued. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. I, in fact, have two of these cameras. But then looking at the R5 Mark II, I'm able to do 4K at 120 frames per second. I'm able to do 8K at 60 frames per second, which means 8K is going to look amazing and just that much more detail. Now, on this old camera, I also have 6K image that's downsampled to 4K for the regular 4K, which looks incredibly sharp in detail. On the cinema camera, I have the full 6K, but I'm downsampling it to 4K for this video. So in a sense, you're getting really the same image quality. Sure, if you crop in on this one, it'll still maintain a lot of that detail, but you can crop in a little bit on the older camera and do it as well. On the Canon, I'm recording 4K, but I can record up to 8K, and the 4K can be downsampled from the 8K, so you get a lot of extra detail. In other words, a lot of cameras, from old to new, do a lot of the same things, just the newer ones do it better. But looking at the old footage, is this good enough for you? Now, old cameras do have to be taken care of a little more because you don't get as much information on these older cameras when it comes to your image. So you have to get the colors, you have to get the look, you got to get the focus right away. And the autofocus is not bad on this. You got to get the focus right away, you got to get the colors right away, because if not, and you try to adjust it in post, it's not going to work well. The cinema camera and the Canon R5 Mark II have the ability to record not only in higher bit rates, which means more information so that you can adjust colors, but it also allows you to record in RAW, which means that you can adjust a lot of the settings when it comes to exposure and white balance, which is like the colors, am I more blue or am I more orange or red? You can adjust that in post and fix your mistakes, where you really can't do that on older cameras because that technology wasn't where it needed to be at the time. So when you're able to do that, you have a lot more latitude to just record and go and then fix it in post in a few seconds and not have a problem. But on older cameras, you need to get it right. But at the end of the day, let me split to you the cost. This one, like I said, less than $1,000. You could find a lens for it too that works with you well. Now remember, lenses, the faster the lens, which means the lower the f-stop and if it has zoom or not, or you can find good prime lenses. All of these can actually use Canon lenses if you get the right adapters. But when you're picking the camera, does it produce the image that you like or that you want? Less than $1,000. This one is around $2,500, which is the Cinema Camera 6K. and it requires a lot more physical work. Like, I can't move right now because this doesn't have any autofocus that's continuous during video, while the other two cameras, the older one and the more expensive one, actually have continuous autofocus. And the newer they come, the better the autofocus is. But for cinema cameras, they don't have in-body image stabilization, which means like when you walk around, does it shake a lot? Cinema cameras tend not to do that because they want to give control to you, and you could attach gimbals or other stuff. Gimbals, which means it balances it for you and allows you to do that. But it gives you the control, because sometimes when you have in-body image stabilization, it can ruin an image, especially if it's not what you want. And then, of course, the newer camera does RAW. It does great autofocus. It does basically everything, but it's a hybrid camera, and it's designed for that. But it does great on that next level when you're recording cinema. But for a lot of those extra buttons and extra little trinkets and trickets, I think best image is always going to be really cinema camera, but you're going to be able to replicate that pretty well on a hybrid camera. And then if you're just looking for just a good image on a budget, you can go cheaper and not be afraid, because I don't think I look bad on this one either. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And if you're looking to understand what the differences are, I could explain more in the comments as well and answer any of your questions. But as usual, this is Magnus, and you can make my day if you subscribe today. I'm out. Hit that like, please, and share it. Share it. Get the information out there. I want to help everybody. And pretty soon, I've got more stuff coming to you guys. See you later. Bye. Magnus Video Productions, the place